Hello, welcome back to The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. Read to you by me, Melissa O'Malley. This is day 30. Congratulations. It's amazing. Welcome, day 30. This is the last day of the experiment. She has some great ideas on how to move forward. And before we even get there, I want to make a personal note, I guess. Uh, I've had a couple of people reach out to me in a couple of different ways, expressing feeling a little bummed, a little bit disappointed in, or feeling like maybe the 30 days was a little anticlimactic, or maybe it just didn't bring as much promise as hoped. And I remember feeling the same way. I remember the 30 days, while you're in it, and especially leading up to it, it can be really daunting. It's a big fucking deal. It's a really big deal for most people um, to do a challenge like this. And at the end of the 30 days, I was like, well, that flew by. And that's my personal experience. When I was in it, it did not feel like it was flying by. Like, it was a challenge. It was challenging. At the end, looking back, my experience was like, wow, 30 days is not really a lot. It's both a lot, and it can be really transformative, and um it is a lot, and it's also really not a lot. So if you haven't lost as much weight as you hoped, or your skin hasn't cleared up, or your sleep isn't much better, or whatever the case might be for you, I just want to normalize that, naturalize that like when we enter into something like this, the hope is so great. I think that's so valid, especially when the hope was so high. Um, whether you're male or female, our bodies go through cycles, and this is only one cycle. Our physical cycles are like 28 days, give or take. So we've only been sober for one cycle. In our system, as Annie has said, as she's taught us in this book, our system will do all kinds of crazy things to try to maintain homeostasis, and a lot of times that means like overcorrecting before finding balance again. um and the great thing about the alcohol experiment is, if your sleep isn't better, or your acne isn't better, or your like relationship with like your body, your food isn't what you hoped it would, at least you know what role alcohol is or is not playing in those things, and at least now you can like approach other areas of your life without all the impacts of alcohol, like clouding that, or getting in the way of that, or like taking precedence over those things. Because so if you have some sort of issue with sleep, um that you were like numbing or self-medicating with alcohol, now that alcohol is gone and maybe you're struggling with sleep, that's like terrible. That sucks. I'm so sorry. But now that's like a beautiful thing, because the alcohol is out of the equation. You can like tend to that issue, whatever the actual underlying issue is. You can actually tend to it now. So I'm going to read the chapter. But my recommendation is, I'm just going to say it, my recommendation is to take it longer than 30 days. I can't emphasize this enough. Like, it's both an incredible feat, and it can be so transformative to just 30 days, and also it's just 30 days. It's both a massive huge deal, and it's also just the beginning, or it could be just the beginning. So hopping into the book, we always start with a quote. Today is by William Jennings Bryan, and it says, "Destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved." First, congratulations. You did it. Completing this 30-day experiment is a big accomplishment, and you should be proud. No matter where you go from here, you will never lose this time of learning, self reflection, and empowerment. And while you may not realize the enormity of your accomplishment, I promise you that powerful shifts have happened. You have embarked on a path of awareness, and you will naturally and effortlessly be more mindful of your drinking in the future. What happens next will depend on where you fall on the spectrum of drinkers. Everyone is different, and your results from this experiment may surprise you. It's possible that you found the past 30 days difficult and still feel emotionally dependent on alcohol. If that's the case, you may want to check out the resources at thisnakedmind.com. It's also possible that you feel amazing and want to continue alcohol free for the next few weeks just to see how it goes. Or you feel amazing and never want to drink again. Or you feel amazing and would like to return to a more moderate, mindful drinking. However you feel is perfect. Remember, this was an experiment, not a life sentence. And the whole purpose of these past 30 days was to get mindful and present around what alcohol is and how it affects the human body and mind. You've done that, which means you succeeded. There's often a big fear around returning to drinking after a period of abstinence, like during this experiment. People wonder whether they can really do it or whether they will ruin all the work they've put into themselves over the weeks or months. They are afraid to trust themselves to go back to drinking. It's always possible that you could head down that slippery slope toward out of control drinking at some point. And my goal is to help you recognize that downward trend as soon as possible. The sooner you recognize what's happening, the sooner you can stop yourself and reverse the trend. No matter what you're feeling right now, I want to offer you a few different ideas to give you some additional insight into where you are right now and what you might truly want. Again, these ideas have no right or wrong. There's no judgment around them. Whatever you decide is good. But you have a unique opportunity at this moment. You've completely purged alcohol from your system, and you have a chance to objectively observe what actually happens when you drink. If you tried these strategies at the beginning of the experiment, you'd get different results because you'd have remnants of alcohol in your system. So take this opportunity to become a reporter and actually study the facts and your behavior before making any decisions about your future. Strategy 1: get drunk for science. Before I dive into the strategy, please know that I do not recommend you do this unless you've decided to go back to drinking. If you're planning to take a longer break, great. That's awesome. This is not required, but I highly suggest you do it before you pick up your next drink mindlessly. When we drift back into drinking, we immediately reprogram our unconscious because we often drift back to it either during a celebration or when we're stressed. In each of those situations, you deliver a strong subconscious message to your brain. If you drink for celebration, chances are that you're in a situation where it is going to be fun anyway, like a birthday party or that vacation you've been planning. So when you have a drink and you do have fun, you've delivered a powerful message to the subconscious that alcohol is fun. When we slip back into drinking for stress, the same thing happens. The alcohol seems to work because the alcohol will numb your brain, and therefore any uncomfortable feelings you have for a limited time, 20 to 30 minutes after the first drink. Yet in that 20 to 30 minutes, you've delivered a powerful message to your subconscious that alcohol is great to relieve stress. I recommend that if you go back to drinking, you do it mindfully with this strategy. The strategy will show you exactly how alcohol truly makes you feel, which allows you to make a mindful decision about it. But again, do this only if and when you decide to drink again. It is not recommended if you've already decided to continue this experiment. Now, we know that going out and drinking with friends or having a beer at a concert is fun, right? But is it the alcohol or is it simply being with your friends and enjoying some great music? That's the fun part. The only way you can know for sure is to separate the two, which means drinking alone. There's an exercise I've used to figure this out. Basically, you need to remove all the external sources of stimulation from your environment. Anything like TV, music, or friends will distract you from the actual feelings you're getting from the alcohol. Here's what to do: get drunk alone with a video camera and be mindful about how you're feeling during the whole experience. You'll want to record your thoughts and sensations around the first drink you consume, around the first drink you consume. And then you'll want to continue recording your feelings as you continue on to the next drink and beyond. You're basically getting drunk for science, your own personal science, to help you decide whether you want to continue on this path. When you have your first drink, notice how long it takes you to get that tipsy feeling. Tell the video camera exactly what you're feeling. What sensations are you experiencing? Is there any anxiety? And notice how long that feeling lasts. When I did this experiment, my video went something like, okay, this feels interesting. I'm a little tingly. I'm not necessarily with it right now, but my brain has stopped running a million miles an hour, and that's kind of a nice feeling. Whatever you notice is fine. No one is going to watch this video but you. Then wait at least an hour. See how it feels to come off that first drink, and then objectively ask yourself if you feel better or worse an hour later. Just sit and be mindful of how you're feeling and what thoughts might be running through your head. Then you can talk to the video camera again and say something like, okay, that tipsy feeling is pretty much worn off now, and I'm starting to feel a little bit uneasy. I really want that next drink. The 1 hour delay is important because it takes that long for your body to fully metabolize one drink, and you want to record how it feels to come off this first one, and how badly do you want to pour the next one. You might be fine, or you might be surprised how much you want it. I drank an entire bottle of wine during my video experience, and it was one of the most enlightening things I've ever done because I wanted to know all the stages. Record yourself in 15-minute intervals. Set a timer, turn on the camera for 5 minutes or so, and talk about how you're feeling. Talk about any conclusions you've drawn so far. Tell stories. Is this fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Are you feeling more or less stressed than before you started? You could even prepare some questions that you want to answer on camera ahead of time. But talking about anything is fine because you're going to watch the video the next day and make some observations. How do you look in the eyes as the video progresses? How is your voice? How is your skin tone? How is your demeanor? Is that person in the video who you want to be? Maybe yes, maybe no. I did this myself after about 40 days alcohol-free. Now, this is important. You need to be at least 30 days alcohol-free in order for this experiment to have the impact it should. Here's why. It takes at least 30 days for your body and brain to rebalance from drinking. And if you are less than 30 days alcohol-free, you may be experiencing some type of benefit as alcohol addresses any of the withdrawal symptoms, both physical and psychological, that your prior alcohol intake created. This means drinking will feel better than it normally would because of the deficit and imbalance your prior drinking caused. If you decide to do the experiment, do it alone, do it mindfully, follow all the rules, stay safe, and be sure to film it. It was one of the most powerful things I've done in terms of truly opening my eyes about alcohol. I couldn't even watch the video for years, but I knew without a doubt that when I decoupled alcohol from both scratching the itch of my withdrawal symptoms and from the natural pleasures of life, like friends and going out, there was no joy for me in alcohol alone. You can watch my experiment video as a part of the online social challenge at alcoholexperiment.com. If you have not yet signed up for the online social challenge, you can sign up to watch just the experiment video at alcoholexperiment.com/drunkforscience. I, Melissa, have not done this. I'd be really interested to. I um, did the alcohol experiment and then added another 30 days. And then it was probably about 2 weeks after that. So I was like 8, 9, 10 weeks sober, completely sober. And then I didn't do getting drunk for science, but I made a mindful decision on um, having some drinks, a couple drinks, um, with my husband at an event. And I've only drank 3 times since doing the experiment. And it was never like in this structured of a way, although I'd be really interested to do it. All 3 times I have drank since becoming sober with the alcohol experiment were not good. They weren't great for me. And even though I didn't do this getting drunk for science thing, I didn't record it. I wasn't as mindful as all of this. I wasn't as intentional about it. I did have a completely new perspective on drinking and how I was drinking. Each time I went into it hoping to have a good time, and each time I was hoping that the alcohol would enhance my experience, and it never did. So anyway, all of that to say, I'd be maybe interested in doing this again, although um, I can say for certain that I wouldn't enjoy it. Like I wouldn't like it. I just know that from the 3 times I've drank um, since doing the experiment. I also want to say, I don't know if she says this in this chapter, but if you haven't taken your selfie, take your 30-day selfie. And compare it to your day one selfie or a selfie from when you were drinking. Anyway, okay. Strategy 2, non-negotiables and lengthening. After you watch your video the next day, you might want to decide that you do want to return to moderate drinking. Here's a strategy for keeping yourself objective and honest about whether you're truly in control moving forward. Go back and refresh your memory on your non-negotiables. These are your lines in the sand that you will not cross without some sort of consequence. If you haven't set yours yet, you can go back to the beginning of the experience and refresh your memory on your big why. Why was it important for you to undertake this experiment? Base your non-negotiables on what's important to you. For me, it was my memories of my children growing up. It's such a finite, precious time, and my memories were getting fuzzier and fuzzier. In fact, it breaks my heart that I can't remember my son's 3rd birthday. Even though I wasn't blackout drunk or anything, I have memory gaps. So I set a non-negotiable that if I couldn't remember something after a night of drinking, then I had crossed a line and it was time to do something about it. Another non-negotiable for me was drinking as self-medication. If I simply had to have a drink because I was stressed out for some reason, that was not okay. I was totally committed to finding other healthy ways to deal with stress and uncomfortable emotions. I couldn't keep going back to the bottle every time I had a bad day or things were tough because I knew where that train was headed and I did not want to be on it when it crashed. Before I started drinking, I used to run or read a book to handle negative emotions. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that alcohol was making things worse. The lengthening strategy is a great tool because you never have to give up drinking forever. You simply give it up for longer and longer periods each time you cross your line in the sand. For example, if I had just come off a 30-day abstinence period and broke one of my non negotiables, then I would immediately start a 60-day break. And the next time it happened, I'd start a 90-day break, and so on. If I wound up giving myself a 3-year break, it's not forever, so my brain has an easier time accepting it. The trick is setting up the non negotiables and the consequences ahead of time while you've been alcohol free for a while. This way, you're not punishing yourself for being bad in the past. All you're doing is objectively setting boundaries for the future, just like any responsible person would do with a potentially dangerous substance. You are in control of the entire situation, not the alcohol. The end result is that you keep pushing out your time frames longer and longer whenever you cross a line in the sand. A friend of mine used this strategy and eventually lengthened her experiments to be a year without drinking. After a year, she no longer saw any point to drinking again. If you ask her, she won't say she's quit alcohol forever. She simply says, "Not right now. I just don't feel like it." Alcohol has become truly small and irrelevant in her life without her ever having to make a painful decision. This is because no matter how long she lengthened her experiments, she knew she could always go back to the end of the abstinence period if she wanted to. After a year, she no longer wants to. How amazing is that? It's freeing to know that you're in control. Strategy 3, understand that maybe means yes. If you're coming off the experiment and you're at all concerned about backsliding, it's important to go forward mindfully. It's tempting to leave your options open. Well, I'm done with the challenge. Maybe I'll have a drink tonight at dinner, or maybe I'll have a few margaritas when I'm on vacation. Maybe almost always means yes. If you don't make a decision ahead of time, you're going to end up drinking. That might be fine, or it might not. But by making a conscious decision, you're giving up a little bit of control, and you haven't even had a wait, sorry. But by not making a conscious decision, you're giving up a little bit of control, and you haven't even had a sip yet. It doesn't matter whether you decide to drink that evening. Just realize that it's the decision that matters. Before you go out with your friends, before you head to your favorite watering hole after work, before that big holiday party, make your decision. Will you be having a drink? Visualize it. Imagine how great that iced tea will taste with dinner. Or imagine yourself easily saying no thanks to that second glass of wine. Once you've made a decision, it's easier to stick to it. If it's a maybe, then 99% of the time it's going to be a yes. What's next? What's next is entirely up to you. But in my experience, once you start drinking again, you can quickly regret that decision because you start to realize you're not actually in control. I've seen it hundreds of times. Someone finishes a 30-day challenge and they think they're fine. They'll have 1 or 2 nights of moderate drinking, and then before they know it, they're right back where they started. They thought they were in control, but it's a slippery slope. It's kind of like the kids' game, shoots and ladders, where you try to get to the end of a long, winding track. You get to skip ahead by climbing up ladders, but one long chute can put you back at the beginning. You'll be moving along nicely, thinking you're about to win the game, and then bam, you land on a chute that slides you back several levels. There are 2 options at that point. Get angry, blame yourself, flip the board game over, and go grab a drink. Or you can just laugh at yourself, realize that you need to start that forward progress over again, and know in your heart that you can make up that lost ground. No one sets out to screw up their life with alcohol. There's never a conscious intention to drink to the point of giving yourself a deadly disease. You aren't even consciously aware of when your drinking became something more than you intended or when you unknowingly gave your power over to alcohol. Circumstances line up just right and bam, your marriage is over, or you lose your kids, or you're fired from your job. The good news is that, unlike a game of chance, you do have some control over your own behavior, and you have a choice to learn from your setbacks. I made a promise to myself a long time ago to never beat myself up over slip ups or mistakes. Instead, I promised to treat them as learning experiences and a chance to move forward with new resolve. You have the same opportunity. Setbacks are part of being human, whether it's drinking or gambling or being a good parent. We all have good days and bad days. The point is to learn from the bad days so you have fewer and fewer of them in the future. Today is day 30. If you've decided to give up drinking indefinitely, great. Kudos to you. If you've decided you want to keep drinking and feel you can do so more mindfully, great. Whatever decision you make is good. You can always change your mind. You are the boss. And the social challenge at alcoholexperiment.com is available if you want accountability in achieving your goals. And if you need more resources for this incredible journey you've begun, please visit Annie at thisnakedmind.com. Day 30 journal questions. Remember, all the wisdom you seek is actually inside you. The most important words in this experiment are the ones you tell yourself. Take some time to answer these questions in a journal, a voice memo to yourself, or simply by speaking them out loud for only you to hear. 1. Getting drunk for science. Reflect on the idea presented in this chapter. If you haven't joined the online community at alcoholexperiment.com, consider visiting alcoholexperiment.com/drunkforscience to watch the video of my personal experience getting drunk for science. Then decide if you plan to do your own. If yes, write down your exact plans following all the suggested instructions. If not, journal about why not. 2. Your non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? What are the lines in the sand that you will not cross? Write specifically about those things that are more important in your life than alcohol. What will you not sacrifice any longer for the sake of a drink? Reflect on your past. Write about where you never want to be again. Take your time and come up with a solid list of non-negotiables. 3. Your lengthening strategy. Consider the lengthening strategy outlined in today's reading. Do you plan on using this strategy as you go back into mindful drinking? What initial length are you committed to? How long will you commit to it if you break any of your non-negotiables during that time? How will you ensure that from this moment forward, you and not the alcohol are in control? Detail out a plan that feels good to you and that you are excited about. I will say that for me, Melissa, personally, one thing that's helped is deciding that if I'm going to drink in the future, it needs to be something that I'm deciding ahead of time. I cannot decide that day that I'm going to have a drink. It can't be that spontaneous. And having like that as a rule, as a non-negotiable rule, I think it's probably really helped the times that cravings do come up and I'm like, oh, going and grabbing this or that or the other thing sounds really fun. Then I remind myself like, oh man, but I made a promise to myself that it will never be like a game time decision. It'll never be a same day decision. And that's that. That's just that. So, okay. One final word. Before we close this book, I want to say how amazing I think you are. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. Simply by reading through this book with me day by day, you've done something to be proud of. I hope you take a few minutes to appreciate yourself for doing this experiment. My good friend Alex told me recently how he became an expert marksman and target shooter, and I wanted to include the story here because it illustrates a great point. When he was young and learning how to shoot, the range instructor put him about a foot away from the target. He was so close there was no way he could miss. It was a guaranteed success for him. Then the instructor moved the target a little farther back, and Alex shot from that distance for a while. Again, there was almost no way he could miss. Over time, the target was moved farther and farther away, but Alex kept hitting it. He became an expert quickly because he built his skill on success. His confidence grew as he hit the target over and over, and when it moved back just a little bit, that confidence kept his hands steady. Most people learn to get better by failing and trying to correct the mistakes. That instructor could have started Alex at a respectable beginner distance away from the target and helped him make corrections. But building on failure is so hard. Every miss is a chance to tell ourselves that we can't do it. Now, some people might say, well, it was easy to have success when you're only a foot away from the target. And that's exactly the point. When you're a beginner at anything, including sobriety, the task is supposed to be easy. If it's too difficult, you'll give up and believe you can't do it. But when you build on a foundation of success, the next step becomes achievable. You don't expect to run a marathon without first running a mile. You don't test for a black belt before you get a yellow one. You don't learn to read before you know the alphabet. What good does it do to start a beginner on a target that's 100 feet away? They're going to miss and lose confidence. They might even give up before they've had the chance to develop the muscles and skill needed to succeed. What a shame. I designed the alcohol experiment to be easy and without pressure because I wanted you to experience success. And you did. Even if you only made it one day, you succeeded. Even if you didn't make it a single day, but you learned something about yourself, you succeeded. The goal was never to get you to stop drinking, but simply to experiment and take an introspective look at your relationship with alcohol. There was no way you could fail. How cool is that? You are a success. At the end of the day, this is your journey. My wish for you now is that you take that success and let it be a foundation for whatever you choose to do moving forward. The target for you is a decision you make about alcohol in your life, and you want to make it easy. If you decide to go another 30 days without drinking, if that's easy for you, great. If you decide moderation is your thing and you're going to skip that second glass of wine just for tonight, cool. You can do it. You're already successful, so make your next steps easy. You don't have to set yourself up for failure by deciding to quit forever if that's going to be hard. In fact, I don't say that I've quit alcohol forever. I know if I did, my brain would rebel and I might be tempted to have a drink. I like to say that I drink as much as I want, whenever I want. I really like that, actually. I drink as much as I want, whenever I want. And the reality is that by knowing and reminding myself of the truth about alcohol, I haven't wanted a drink in years. Take it in steps you know you can achieve, and then move the target back as your confidence grows. It's your life. You get to decide. When most people decide to quit drinking, they think they have to make it a lifelong commitment. That means that if they ever have a drink in their entire life, they've failed. That's a lot of pressure. But if they decide, I'm not going to drink for today or this week or this month or even this year, it's much easier to handle. Your brain is amazing, and you can program it to do what you want by repeatedly succeeding. If you make the target too hard to hit, you'll consistently fail. When that happens, your brain gets the message that you're a failure, and you start to believe it. When you believe you're a failure when it comes to alcohol, that belief makes your life so difficult. Train your brain to believe you're successful instead, and you can do anything you decide to. Make the smallest possible decision that you know you can succeed at. All you have to do is show up, hit the easy target, and congratulate yourself on a big win. You have all the tools you need to succeed with this book. If you'd like a little more support and resources, I invite you to join me and thousands of other people from around the world at alcoholexperiment.com. You're already a success. You got this. With all of the love in my heart, Annie. That's it. She has acknowledgments. She also has an appendix where she speaks about how to host the alcohol experiment yourself. Highly suggest getting this book and her other book, This Naked Mind. Check out alcoholexperiment.com. It's really wonderful. It's really wonderful. And it helped me so much that when I finished it, I just knew that I had to do this. I knew that I had to share it with like my world. Yeah, because it was so helpful. I hope that it's been helpful, useful for you. Thank you for sitting through me struggling to read out loud day after day. It's been a little embarrassing, humbling sometimes. If you dig my vibe, if you want to work with me further, I have spaces open for one-on-one work. My website is theselfcarewitch.com. Yeah, that's it. We're done. I plan to host the alcohol experiment again, probably in a couple months, sometime in the summer, probably not June, maybe June, maybe July. So Stay tuned with me. Keep moving in the direction of what feels good. And I have no doubt that you will inevitably reap the benefits of doing that, you know. Um, so, sending my love to you. Thank you for being here day after day. I hope to see you and be able to support you in another way soon. All right. Much love. Take care. Bye.